Now we have thousands of family members whose work has been done. My children were just wonderful in helping me with the work. I don't know if they had other social activities. When they went out on dates, they would go to the temple. My full name is Laurie Ning Henderson, and I was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. Well, when I was young, we were Catholics. My father converted to Catholicism when he was in high school, so we were raised in the Catholic Church, which just meant that we went to Mass every Sunday, and my siblings and I all attended Catholic school. Reading the Bible was very important to me, but not really encouraged at school or in our home at all. But we just had a Bible, and I just liked to read it. Like I said, my father was converted to Catholicism, but his mother was from China, was born and raised in China, and her religion was Taoist. And I always felt a connection to God and wanting to know more, and I was sick a lot when I was a girl. And when I was at home, and when I was in bed and not well enough to get up and do things, I would like to read a lot. And so I would read the family Bible often. My dad would let me stay after church on Sundays while the family waited for me so I could ask one or two questions of the priest. And he would try to answer my questions. And I just remember being really frustrated because I never thought any of the answers were satisfying. But I still always had a deep yearning to be close to Jesus, and I always had a deep belief in the fact that there was a God and that Jesus had saved us somehow, but I didn't understand quite how. My mother died when I was very young. I was about 25 years old when she died. I just, in my grief, wanted to know where she was and what it was like. The Lord really guided me. I believe He knew I needed to get away from Hawaii, my family, my friends, the comforts of home, so that I could learn and grow and be open-minded and open-hearted. The Lord led me to move to California. I felt real strongly that I needed to move, and my dad didn't want me to move, of course, because of all the 5 kids, I was the only one living at home. Somehow, I just made it work because the Lord wanted me to. I got the job, obviously, moved to San Francisco, and then met a girl from Hawaii who had also moved to the mainland, to the Bay Area, about a year later, then joined the church. And through our phone conversations and our friendship, she basically convinced me to go to a singles dance that she was in charge of. And at that dance, I met a guy who we started dating, and he introduced me to the church. One of our dates was the Oakland Temple grounds, and we walked around, and he took me to the visitor center, and he asked me if I wanted to read a free book and get a free book, and I said sure. Not ever intending to read it, of course, but just, because it was free, there was no risk. So I didn't know it, but it was delivered by a couple of missionaries. It was the Book of Mormon, and they asked if they could come in and talk about it with me, and I said sure. I didn't have any intention of even discussing it with them very much, but just to be polite, I thought I would let them in once, and that would be it. But they were very sincere and there was something about them that resonated with me, and their message was intriguing, and it made me feel really good to have them in my home. Today, I know it was the Spirit. I know that that's what got me to keep listening and inviting them back, and then I did join the church. Well, they said it was a long time. To me, it wasn't very long because, there was a big step for me, a big change in my life. 8 months, I believe it was. So I met them, I believe they first came to my apartment in October of 1981, and it was in June that I was baptized. To get baptized, I felt like I had to have a lot of faith because my entire family was against it. They had heard things about the Mormon church that they didn't like. They tried to convince me not to get baptized and not to join the Mormon church. So I had to be very strong emotionally and just kind of resist the pressure. After I joined the church, I found out that my faith was not as strong as I thought it was, and that I had to strengthen it. And the way I strengthened it was by going to church. Every Sunday, I was paired up with another member of the church, and we worked on activities, which I really enjoyed. Just doing the little things, praying every day and going to church and doing my calling the best I could. I found that to be very strengthening. And then socializing with my new set of church friends in the single adult ward in San Francisco, I learned a lot by their example. When I joined the church, I started going to the family history library in Oakland because we were supposed to do it. Everywhere we turned, we came to dead ends. We could not find anything about any of my ancestors that I did not already know about, and I knew very little. So I got very frustrated. But the one thing I did do was follow the advice of church leaders who said, the way to get started with genealogy is to talk to your living relatives about their memories of their ancestors. So from that, I got some information, and many years later, I was able to use that information and find more relatives. So I was able to contact him and get the genealogy. And to my great surprise and joy, this genealogy was huge. It was over 350 pages. But it was all in Chinese characters. And I don't read Chinese. And at that time, I didn't know anybody who did either. So it was a huge struggle at first to interpret this and translate it. Plus then they were able to tell me at that time, there are no dates in this whole thing. And back then, the church required the birth and death dates of people before you could put their names into the database. I always hoped that I could find somebody who could translate it for me and then somehow get the work done for them. I consider this a miracle. One of my distant relatives either wrote or emailed me from Hawaii, where she lived. And she said that she was a genealogist and she just did it for fun. And she had gotten a lot of data on her side of the family and wanted more from my side of the family. But she had this genealogy as well, the same one that I had in Chinese. And except she had gotten the English translation of it. My eldest daughter was attending BYU Hawaii. As she was on her way back to California for Christmas, she met with this family relative, the English translation of her genealogy, all 300 plus pages of it, and carried it home in her suitcase. But to my disappointment, this record was not only hard to read, but the church would not accept the English version of it. A member of the church had found his Chinese genealogy with thousands of names and had started entering them into the family history website and had started doing the temple work for them. And I called him and I asked him how he got his names entered into Family Search. He said, well, I do read Chinese and I can understand the characters, but I cannot write. And you need a special mouse to write Chinese characters. I found a woman who lives in Oregon who can do this. And so I was able to give her both of the genealogies that I had. And she was able to enter the direct lines into the new family search. And from there, I started to print cards and was able to give the family name cards to my 3 children who were by now old enough to do the baptisms and the confirmations. And so from there it started. Now we have thousands of family members whose work has been done. My children were just wonderful in helping me with the work. My ward members helped me with the work, both in the ward I lived in at the time, and then since I moved away, others have helped me as well. But my children were in BYU, and while they were there, they did so many baptisms. And not only them, but they got their friends. I don't know if they had other social activities. You know, when they went out on dates, they would go to the temple. And I really think it held our family together and made us stronger and more unified and bonded us in a way that nothing else could have. I know it's in the thousands. Years ago, I tallied up the family name cards that we kept and added them up, but I think I can better show you what it all looks like. The approximate earliest date that I have is before BC, probably about 30 BC. And then through the years, I've come to realize that I'm a pioneer in a different sense, because I'm the first member in my family to join the church, and I faced a lot of opposition from my family, and so I was ostracized by my friends and family. But now, I really can't count the blessings. I feel so grateful and so blessed to be a member of this church and to know the gospel the way I do, and to have my children be strong in the gospel, and you know that we're all sealed together. And so it means everything to me to be a member of the church and to know about Jesus Christ and his atonement and what it gives us, and that we are children of Heavenly Father. But it seems dark in comparison to the life I have now, which is filled with joy and brightness and hope. Yes, there are many challenges still, and I know there will be more to come, but I just have the faith and the knowledge that any of that can be overcome because of the gospel.